In this video, I'm going to go through the 6 cheapest AMG cars that you can buy in today's market, and then we'll evaluate if you should get one of these or not. In some of my previous videos, I looked at AMGs that give you the most for your money, but many of these options are still relatively expensive. Today, we're going to look at the absolute cheapest models and then see if they're still worth it or not at the end of the video. So we'll start at number 6 with the CLK55 C208. Introduced in 2000, the CLK55 had the M113 5.4-liter V8 with 342 horsepower. It was paired with a 5-speed automatic transmission. This was enough to get from a standstill to 60 miles an hour in about 5 seconds. This compact two-door featured the classic monoblock wheels and a leather-trimmed interior. A total of 3,381 coupes were made, so they are pretty rare. A convertible was made available for 2002, and it's also one of the cheapest AMGs you can buy today. These have a lot of potential with a few minor modifications. A good example is Sylvester Stallone's CLK55. The story was that this car was used at the United States Grand Prix and then given by F1 and AMG to Stallone. The car, which was formerly a safety car, is lowered on coilover suspension and fitted with 18-inch two-piece AMG wheels, which are an excellent fit for this car. The car was actually a 1999 European market pre-series model that started life as a CLK430 and was modified by AMG before delivery. And this was still a common practice in the late 1990s. The market today for the CLK55 in North America shows that you can easily get a nice example for $15,000, and there are plenty that sell for less than that. Number 5, ML55 W163. The first mass-produced AMG SUV was the ML55, first seen in 2000. The power output from its M113 V8 was also rated at 342 horsepower. The AMG styling added fender flares, bulges on the hood, and dual exhaust outlets. In total, 11,058 of these were made, meaning that this was one of AMG's most popular vehicles during this era. And since the ML55, fast SUVs have been a staple of the US market. Today, the average ML55 sells for around $10,000 or less, but the very best examples sell for around $20,000 since these are relatively simple and robust SUVs. Number 4, SLK32 R170. Released in 2001 and available in North America for 2002, this high-performance SLK was powered by the supercharged 3.2-liter M112K V6. Power was rated at 349 horsepower in this small roadster. The innovation of the SLK was the folding metal hardtop, which was incredibly well implemented given that the R170 came out in the late 1990s. The SLK32 received more aggressive styling and 17-inch wheels as part of its AMG treatment. Mercedes made 4,333 units of this car, and since then, it's remained as a pretty obscure car. The market for the SLK32 shows that these cars are extremely cheap. Even the best examples in existence struggle to hit the $20,000 mark. The SLK55 R171, which replaced the 32, is a much more popular car with its M113 V8 and SLR-inspired styling. Number 3, CL55 C215. The CL55 was brought in for 2001 as a series model. The CL was an innovative platform that had a bonded aluminum roof, magnesium door frames, and composite plastics used for the front fenders. The car's long doors benefited from an ingenious hinge system, and the pillarless design made the car stand out. The CL55 was powered by the M113 V8, this time with 355 horsepower and 391 pound-feet of torque. Active body control hydraulic suspension was fitted, as well as AMG styling and dual exhaust outlets. Advanced features like radar-guided cruise control were available. A total of 2,217 of these were made by 2002. Despite the rarity, these cars regularly sell for around $10,000. The best examples you can find out there sell for less than $20,000. The CL55 F1 Limited Edition is obviously not included in this discussion, as it's a collectible car with 55 produced, and it was the first road car with carbon ceramic brakes. For 2003, the CL55 was updated with the supercharged V8, which added nearly 140 horsepower compared to this earlier CL55. Better facelift styling was added as well, so overall the 2003 Plus is a better car without a doubt. So these early CL55s will always be one of the cheapest AMGs you can buy. Number 2. S55 W220. Arriving to North America for 2001 as a series model, the S55 was the high-performance S-Class. It had the same engine as the CL55, again with 355 horsepower. It also had the hydraulic suspension as well. There was also a short wheelbase version, but that was not sold in North America. The S55 was very spacious, comfortable, and benefited from those classic AMG monoblock wheels. These S55s regularly sell for around $10,000. The best examples you can find out there are in the high teens. Again, the 2003 Plus S55 benefited from the same improvements as the CL55, including that extra 140 horsepower. Number 1. C32 W203. The cheapest AMG you can buy today is the C32. First seen in 2001, the C32 was powered by the M112K V6. This engine put out 349 horsepower, which made the small C32 sedan a quick car for its time. Like other cars on this list, the engine was hand-assembled by one technician, but the idea to add plaques with the builder's signature was not really seen until the 2003 model. And by 2004, 6,695 units were made of the C32 sedan, so they're on the more common side of AMGs from this time. Being the cheapest AMG out there, you can find them for as little as $5,000, but $10,000 is more of an average price. While the C32 has a good engine, the C55 that replaced it was improved overall, especially the front-end styling. So should you buy any of these cars? Let's start with the positives. Every car on this list has a reliable engine and transmission. The 55s and their 113 V8s are super reliable, and the supercharged 32s are also very good with their M112. The 5-speed automatic is also very good as long as it's maintained. Parts are relatively cheap as well, so replacing the brake pads and rotors on these cars is not super expensive. My recommendation if you are buying one of these is to be prepared to do some basic service, such as oil changes yourself, considering the values of these cars. The S55 and CL55 are going to have more bills to cover because they are loaded with more equipment, and the hydraulic suspension, which is likely overdue on a fluid service. For some, the negative of all of these cheapest AMGs is that they come from the same era. Every car on this list is from the turn of the century, the early 2000s, where lots of different AMG models were mass-produced and the quality of Mercedes cars was criticized as in decline during the peak of the so-called Daimler-Chrysler era. Complicated systems like active body control were making their way in. Rust can also be a notable issue on some of these cars, such as the W203, W208, and W220 from these years, such as 2001. Many also did not like the Mercedes styling, where they brought in rounded elements such as headlights, but still without clear lenses. These concepts were refined towards the later part of the 2000s, but these earlier days were not as widely loved. This 2001 era of AMGs got so cheap that many of these fell into a bad state with deferred maintenance and stayed that way ever since. Don't get me wrong, these cars are not bad at all. I'm not saying to avoid them, but it would be hard to argue that this wasn't Mercedes and AMG at a low point, and the values reflect that. This wasn't across the board. Some models from these years are collector's items, such as the AMG R129s. So overall, do look for these 6 cars, especially if you like this era of Mercedes. My pick would probably be the CLK55 as the best overall of the 6, since you can set it up quite nicely, and it's not going to be super expensive to maintain. The redemption is that these cars all still have good engines. You could do a lot worse. Want a cheap V12? You'll have to skip out on getting an AMG, but a 2001 or 2002 S600 is usually even cheaper than any of these 6 AMGs I've mentioned so far. The S600 has the M137 V12, which was an awful follow-up to the legendary M120 V12 that it replaced. The M137 is notorious for out-of-round cylinder walls and oil fouling problems, and in my opinion, an S600 or CL600 with this engine is one of the worst Mercedes you can buy. Anyways, in summary, engines like the M113 are very good and basically carry this 2001 era of AMG Mercedes, which I think in most cases will always be the cheapest on the market of AMGs going forward. If you've seen my videos on the best bargain AMGs, you may be paying more, but you're getting more with many of these cars. Thanks for watching. If you want to support the channel, take a look at my store, link is in the description. If you want to see more Mercedes and AMG content, subscribe for more videos like this one.